is back in the top 100. It's a different beast. Although I wouldn't write off Blade, folks. This guy is very capable. Aspiring pro player. NA needs him. America, not too represented. You know, the USA chants aren't going to be there in Heidelberg. It's going to be Canada. Maybe Warlord Legacy #2, though. We'll have to see. Step 1, of course, is slaying the GOAT of AoE. Because he is up against Viper. And Viper, it's again on Highview. Like, seriously, what is going on? Is he just... Like, it almost feels like he's just intentionally Q dodging for Highview. Although the interesting part is Viper, so far we've seen him do Deli, but now he's switched it up. He's gone for the French. I think the French is definitely a decent pick here on Highview, especially with the changes and also the arrival of other civs that are effective on maps like Dry Arabia. I think the French have become a little bit more flexible to being picked here. Also, the spawns in general feel less merciless when it comes to gold spawn placement. Like, for example, here you can see on Blade's side, yeah, he's got one gold stack right near the wood line, but the other one's far out in safe land, and same for Viper. I feel like it used to be more common on Highview for people's gold vein to spawn right next to the Stealth Forest, which was dangerous for both sides. And I think that was also especially crippling for the French, because not only was it spawning close to the Stealth Forest, but by doing that, it was spawning out of range of your TC protection, and it meant that you could be blocked out of gold. And if you're a French player without gold, what are you? You're Burgundies, you know, you're not even really French anymore. It's pretty much the most essential ingredient to get the key units you're looking for, which are Knights, and then later on Arbaletier, which is just both so important for French to even compete in the current meta. Now, of course, you could go Horseman, but let's be real. If you're going Horseman early on as the French, you're not playing French. But opening up, it will be very easy for him. His gold spawn is actually very tight, close to base. Stone outcropping, also decent placement, so he should be able to get his hands on the stone for a secondary TC. All being retracted is quite nice for him. In fact, it looks like both players got a lot of retracted resources. Only the wood line's forward, which is actually optimal for both these civs in terms of defending, right? Because now you can go aggressive with Knights on both sides, and it's much more difficult for your opponent to get in because they have to wrap wide. So it gives you a little bit more time to react. And if they do try to come down the center, it's going to be these wooden walls they're going to be up against. And the cool thing actually about the configuration for both players really is they could easily offset a lot of the heavy cavalry raids with some small walls. I definitely think that Blade got a better placement actually. Because if you look, you can see he got that less common kind of branch spawn. I feel like this has actually happened less frequency in the new generations of Highview, but you used to always see two wood lines right close together, just creating a natural wall. And he's got that here, more or less. So he can just wall on the east side, and that will protect everything back here. Could be that he wants to be more ambitious than this, though, because there is a double D stack just to the east of Blade's base. Might be worth him dropping a TC here. There's some risks associated, but with the way the Stealth Forest has actually been spawned, I think he could get away with this without having to worry about French Knights coming out of nowhere. Blade. Whoa. Whoa! Did Viper forget that this game has a bounty system? Or did Blade just wreck his world? 335 bounty is a damn good number. With just 3 scouts, and he hasn't taken a boar yet. Pretty respectable. I've seen better, but I've seen much worse. He has clubbed all the sheep down, though, so hasn't got a little extra trickle to come in. It's actually, okay, he's got 4 over here, so he can get up to 355, which is high enough for you to kill both the boars and get the tier 3 bounty. And he might want to make a boar play in the center here, but the problem, however, is he's up against the French. The French make a boar play much more difficult, especially if you're on a delayed timing. He could probably make it happen simply because he put 6 people on the Golden Gate build, but it'd be a bit too tight. And I think that's why he's going to stick at home. Yeah, so now that Blade is gathering with sheep again, there's no chance that he's going for the boar drop. Because if you make the boar drop up against the French, you have to go immediately. The issue with not going immediately is the moment you see that tech up, it's already too late if you're not in the way. Because the first knight's going to come out, you can already see he's half produced because it only takes 29 seconds as opposed to 35 for the French. He'd make his way out on top of the boar before you'd even start constructing the TC. So I actually prefer that Blade now just sits at home. Maybe goes for the secondary TC on the deer stack. I think that's still a very viable option here. Of course, he just needs to wait for his second ticket. He'd also need to go on the gold, but as we already highlighted, this gold in the back corner is incredibly safe. So he could easily move out for that with little risk from these French Knights. Speaking of which, French Knights are finally hitting the field. Meanwhile, on the other side, it looks like Blade is trying to mirror this with Knights of his own, but he's going to want more than that. As if you're just going to try to clash with the French Knights on Knights, you're going to lose. The thing you have to remember is the French, A, are going to produce theirs 20% faster, and B, are superior when they get the charge off. So it is very difficult to play this one-dimensional format of heavy cav on heavy cav. You will see Blade needing to blink first and do something different. Speaking of Blades being whipped out here, we'll raid in. Almost kills a villager, but not really worth it, actually, for Viper. That was an incredible amount of damage. Problematic that he takes a follow-up strike as well. So his first Knight down to 40 health. Second one on the way in, but there's already now a Knight to mirror that movement. And he only almost killed one villager. This is not ideal. He forced a little bit of idle time, but if you were going to make that type of dive, you want to ideally get out with about 120 health still on your Knight. Getting hit that hard is really going to set him back. And now with the Wooded Fortress going up, it's going to make it incredibly difficult for him to sneak in. Now, the good news for Viper, it looks like there isn't going to be a second TC play coming anytime soon for Blade. However, he's stockpiling, so he could still trade across. But likely he's going to want to get more Knights. In the meantime, it looks like Viper is going hard on the stone. 6 people out here. And this hasn't been scouted by Blade because he's forced to kind of react around the mid-map to keep vision up because of where the Knights could come in. An interesting choice here. It looks like Blade chose to go after the boar. Scout, 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 scout. Oh, no. Interesting choice of the Knight. He's actually somewhat enabled by the fact that his opponent threw away his first French Knight. So it's actually not that bad of a trade to take a little bit of damage there. You get 75 gold in exchange, and that's the thing he needs right now because he can't get on the gold vein. In fact, it's starting to look like Blade is considering a rush to Castle Age, but I think that would be quite throwy here, actually. He hasn't got enough wolves up to justify it. He also doesn't have enough food in reserve to justify it. I think he has to play mid-map. Whether he likes it or lumps it, it's not an option to go for Castle here. The only way he could actually get Castle is if he long-walled east side and secured both deer stacks. And then he'd be insulated. And he might get an opportunity to do that. There is going to be the TC drop now, so he does exchange the gold across in the end. Whoa. Yeah, no, please. Don't. No. So here's a tough part. Do you put the TC on the one deer stack or between the two? Because between the two gives you a bit more forward vision, and it's like, it's the mid-ground. But this placement by Blade, it does give him the most efficient initial food gathering. 3 deers are going to be right next to the TC, which is why he's doing this. I do quite like the idea of the center one just for the vision, but realistically, you can still be flanked on the north, right? So I think Blade actually did make the best of the situation. Arguably, he could have dropped the TC here a little bit further back, and it would have been more connected to your base, but I don't think he's worried about being hit by French Knights in the next few minutes. And he knows that in the interim, he can build a land bridge of buildings between these two town centers. Between the town centers. Viper definitely got the more optimal placement here. You can see on the deer stack. Already looking to rush up that gathering. Already 6 villages ahead, in fact. Unfortunate for Blade to be playing from behind like this. And I think Blade is all too aware of what Viper's now doing. Despite the fact that he only has 1 scout, it should be very obvious to Blade that this was a double TC French play, considering he hasn't seen more French cavalry so far. But not for long. That's right, Viper's bringing more of the lads in. Scout is going to be sniped out. Nice maneuver in there. Notice that Viper's a little bit distracted on the west side. Gets rid of the vision. That's key here. And the vision still exists on the west side, so Viper will start to move in here. However, he's outnumbered. Maybe a little bit too gluttonous. Needs to get more knights on the front side. So it looks like Blade is investing into more military here. And Viper looks like he's flirting with the idea of just stockpiling. I don't think that's the way you play this, though. Now that you've seen your opponent has invested in more knights, you are somewhat obligated to engage with it. Especially if you consider that you went this far out the secondary TC. Let's say you don't escalate your knight count. Let's say Blade goes up to 10, 12 knights. He can move across the field and he can torch down this TC. And you will not have an answer to it because you've chosen to save up 1,800 resources. Say that again. 1,800 resources, which is basically seven or 8 knights. It's quite a lot of additional military power that you're missing out on. Oh, that looks like what Viper wants to do. Now, arguably, if he does this quick enough and it doesn't get spotted, he can get into Arbor the Trier, build additional knights, and punish. But it's too late already. Like you can see, Blade's in. Viper's going to try to rush it up. Now, there is no risk the Guildhall gets spotted out. It's the town center that's now at risk. And he's outnumbered. And this is the thing, Viper, because he didn't even invest in one additional knight, it revealed to Blade what he was doing. And Blade is now on the clock. He has to go. He has an opportunity, though, especially if he decides to drop Blacksmiths and prep the Siege Engineering. So far, hasn't chosen to do so. Wait, Blade? Is he backing up? Oh, whoa. Is he just thinking of attacking up himself? Because I think he's... Like, I don't think it's an ideal play here. No, you need to go. You need to go right now. This is better. You need to be in. You need to start chipping away at Eco. You need to be in position to punish Viper before he can get the initial units out and upgrade them. Blade, this is the issue, right? He lost a lot of his scouts. Or I think he lost 2 in the end. About to lose another one. So limited vision. Tech Up comes out. That's the bad news. And Blade did nothing with this opportunity. Killed 2 villagers maximum. This is as comfortable as it gets for Viper. He even gets enough wiggle room to get the initial knights built. So now he's content. Now he's safe. And yes, it is typical that Viper will try to build less military, but this was a situation where it probably shouldn't have worked out this well. But Blade's hesitation to strike may cost him dearly now. Knights are going to ride in. Upgrade comes out. Luckily, Viper notices before the auto-aggro onto the spears. And you can see Blade, he was now going for Siege Engineering. It might be too late, though. The time it's going to take you to build up this ram, there could easily be a double arch range drop and Arbor Trier coming out. Now, the good news for Blade is, weirdly enough, Viper isn't building Arbor Trier at all. He's only building more knights. What? Did I just... Oh, you just saw spears. There's no way you think mass knights is the answer, right? This is some Age of Empire for November 2021 logic. I've seen Doubt do a very similar thing. Like, okay, so I don't play as much AoE 2. Is there something like in AoE 2 that would make this logical in their brains? Because I've seen this frequently out of Doubt, and now I'm seeing it out of Viper. Just mass knights. You can't take a direct fight. You're still outnumbered on heavy cavalry, and then there's a spearman as well. Spearman that will keep you at bay. Ram's going to move in. Commitment on the ram to get rid of it. Wrap around on the backside. Brace comes out, so building up the secondary ram. A nice split of the spears there. Blade sends half of them in to deal with the TC and deal with the knights. The rest to defend, and now he's just going to commit. Doesn't even bother to build the secondary ram. And all of a sudden, you're going to see Viper with 1 less TC. Knights. Blade. These fights are getting worse for him, actually. The spears do get a chance to commit, however. And Viper, an ambitious fight to be taking. However, the amount of knights he has, they're not doing too bad for themselves. It should end up costing him the town center. But my god, is it taking a long time. In fact, his knights not being in the fight may have just cost Blade the war. Oh my... I don't think Blade's got this anymore. The commitment to try and get rid of the TC has slowed him down. Viper is unleashed. So many injured knights, almost dead. But the fact that the knights were not there from the roof side meant the spearmen got overwhelmed. Remember, these are feudal age spearmen. They only have 90 health each. And the bonus damage isn't as significant as if you were up in Castle Age. A deceitful detail on one that Viper exploited perfectly. And that was, I mean, that was tunnel vision right there. That was brilliant. That was brilliant strategization by Viper at the beginning to pincer maneuver when he came in on the secondary ram and denied it. But where this got really weird and came more down to Blade's suboptimal reaction, he committed onto the TC with the knights and then sent the spears in. The spears had no chance against this many knights. Like, if you have the same amount of knights as spears in this situation, especially with the Castle Age upgrade, it's going to be a one-sided affair. And now, after that, Blade now has the opportunity to move out across the map. And keep in mind... Viper rather has the opportunity to move out across the map. And keep in mind that Blade has been playing pocket ecos, right? He's out into the deers. He was probably extending out into the boars, if I'm not mistaken. Looks like he hasn't gone for them yet, but he needs them. Because the alternative is you spend more wood on farms at home in a situation where you now run the risk of just being overwhelmed militarily. Still, though, Blade, life gives him lemons. He decides to squeeze the lemon juice into the eyeballs of Viper. Moves in onto the wood line. And this is unlike Viper. He always gets textiles, but he didn't in this game. Idle time. It's going to slow down his opponent a little bit. An interesting choice here. It's going to be the high trade house on the backside. Should get him a lot of gold. And the reason why Blade's making this choice, he's playing from behind. If you go into relics now, you're going to still be behind because you're up against the cavalry spamming Civ. There's probably going to have mid-map control. You won't be able to get relics. It's probably his best choice here. However, things are going to work against him elsewhere. We warned against this. We warned about this issue, the pocket eco. There's 19 villages out here. The only upside for him is that Viper did not notice. Over his knights at the back of the Snake's base are going to be cleaned up. Blade barely going to get out with any remaining cavalry. And this tech up isn't going to be from a position of power because the knights are in. Oh, no. And there's no textiles. They'll try to run for the high hills, but they won't get far in this format. There's just too many knights in now. Blade just insta-calls it. He realizes that that tech up cost him everything. Not enough knights remain to combat. The reboot from Viper is going to be too strong. He doesn't waste time. He will call the game. Great greed, actually, by Viper. You know, to quote my good friend Beastie, it's not greedy if it works. And that's kind of what fits here. Like, going into this double TC, only building 2 knights, and then deciding to go for the tech up was incredibly dangerous. But he'd done the tech up in a place where it was unlikely to be spotted. The other detail as well is Blade hesitated to go in. I think if Blade had gone in early onto the TC, there's a possibility that he gets rid of that town center, and he's able to push into the base before the upgrades come through for the French. But I think the thing that made Blade hesitant is he didn't have siege engineering. Looking back at this game, I think the key error is that Blade, in good a position, did not immediately build a blacksmith's. If you remember, I checked back in his base on the observing, and he still did not have a blacksmith's at the time where it made sense to go in. I think if he actually got the blacksmith in that moment, he hits his window of opportunity, he gets double ram in time, TC gets dropped, and he probably makes his way into the base and does some serious damage, but unable to do so here. Snake Man makes it work good. Takes a fairly fast win in the end.